Move on to our present.
Sorry.
That's okay. We're going to move on to our presentation today. Let's see. So just a reminder to keep yourself on mute when not sharing to limit the background noise. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you afterwards. And just if you need a minute to go grab a paper and pen or pencil, it will be really helpful today for taking notes on the presentation. So now I'm going to introduce our speaker today, Shawna Kempf. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Shawna today. As a certified generational healing coach with a bachelor's degree in psychology, Shawna is the newest member to our WFWP group. From a young age, she knew that she wanted to make a difference in others' lives as a counselor and has dedicated her life to helping people. Now, after raising her 3 daughters, she has the time to pursue her passion and help others achieve their goals. With over 15 years of marriage and living in various countries such as Russia, Korea, and France for 14 years, she has gained valuable insights into the challenges of early motherhood and marriage. Her personal journey of growth and self-discovery has inspired her to become a listening ear and a partner for others on their personal journeys. Shawna's leadership experience goes back to her dedicating 3 years to an international leadership program where she became a captain and led young people to achieve their personal and spiritual goals. And I know that I've been having the pleasure to be a fellow coach with Shawna, and she is just the biggest cheerleader. And I really love having her in our groups because she just knows how to encourage and inspire and is so warm and loving toward others around her. So she really does enjoy lifting people up and encouraging others. So please join me in welcoming Shawna. Shawna, you're still muted. Shawna, just unmute yourself before you begin.
Yeah, you're still muted. Sorry. Okay, wait, one moment.
Oh, you fixed
That's
it.
Good. One
You're
moment.
good. You're good.
Share tab, audio. Okay, everyone hears me? Yes. And everyone sees I'm going to do the presenter view. Okay, hello everyone. Good morning or good afternoon or good evening to wherever you are. I think it's loading. Still says it's loading, yes. Okay, everyone sees the first slide? Yes. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for that warm welcome. That was really weird to hear. The introduction that basically my husband and I wrote. Yeah, that is interesting to hear yourself being introduced. I wrote out something very different and then I was like, husband, come help me. What should I write? And then we came up with that. Yeah, because that's even just that, like writing up like an introduction and sending it over, like even that was hard to do. Just like putting yourself out there. Anyway, so yes, today we're going to be covering this book. Everyone sees it, The 7 Levels of Intimacy by Matthew Kelly. And this was a really important book for me. And two things, actually, really, the two main things that I gained from this book is one, actually, I had this deep realization that, wow, I am also responsible for me putting myself out there, because that's something that's really hard for me to do, is to open up and to be vulnerable and to do those things. And the first thing I realized with the book is like, wow, Shawna, that's also your responsibility. Like, you need to put yourself out there and open up. If you actually want intimacy and if you want that closeness with someone, it's also up to you. And the second point that I'll get into a little bit later is how much this book has changed my relationship with my spouse, with my husband. So let's move on to the second slide. What is intimacy? This book describes it as a self-revelation. It's to share every aspect of yourself with another person. And it's a process of mutual self-revelation that inspires us to give ourselves completely to another person in the mystery that we call love. To be truly intimate with another person is to share every aspect. It's to take off that mask, to let down your guard, to set aside your pretenses, to share what is going on in your mind, what's going on in your heart. And it's really a gift that we can give to others. And it's a gift that we can receive too. And not all relationships are worthy of such complete intimacy. But our primary relationships, maybe the one with your spouse, really should be. So the greatest gift is intimacy. It's something we really yearn for. After reading the first few pages of this book, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want. This is what I really, really want. And yet I hide so much. I hide so much of the time. We avoid it too. Why do we avoid? Well, it's pretty hard to expose your self and expose your secrets and maybe the secrets of your heart, your mind, and your soul with another fragile, imperfect human being. But we do have a profound need for it. And yes, we're also afraid of it too. So a question I want to ask is, do you have people in your life that you can share with? Because we all yearn, above all, for intimacy. We can live without the cars and the vacations and the dream homes, but it's hard to thrive in relationships without intimacy. It is one of our legitimate needs and really a prerequisite to happiness. Our desire for happiness is really our desire for intimacy. In this book, it talks about what's your story. And actually, every relationship has a story. You yourself, you have a story. What's your story? What's your family story? Oops, I misspelled that, I think. What's your family store? Maybe you have a family store as well. What's your relationship story like? It's actually in relationships, right? Where I think you've heard of maybe the sentence, we're broken in relationships, but we can also be healed in relationships. And your relationship needs to also rediscover and to cherish their own story. I know the first question that I'm asked often is, how did you two meet? Like with my husband and I. And then I have to pause. I'm like, oh, how much of my story do I want to share? Do I feel good with this person right now? Do I feel safe? Is there enough time to go into my story? These are all like the thoughts I start having, because maybe your story is different. Maybe it's unique. And it's so interesting because many times in our relationships, like at the start of your relationship, you have this beautiful, grandiose story of how you two met and you take your time to share it. But then maybe as the years progress, you forget your story. You forget a little bit how you even met, how you fell in love. And it's actually rediscovering that story and sharing it with people. It can help you to have this deep need of being known. And it can also help the other person, maybe that you're talking to also then be able to share their life more. I also heard that in families, like those of us with, well, small children, young children, but also older children, like having a family tradition and having traditions and having stories that are kept on and kept repeated, like that really helps your kids to feel a part of something and to feel like there's something bigger and greater in their family life too. So there's 4 aspects of intimacy. Of course, the physical, handshakes, smiles, a kiss on the cheek. There's actually a whole chapter in this book about sex and how it does not equal intimacy. It is definitely a very, very intimate part, but also sex gets better and better and better when you can also have all the emotional, intellectual, spiritual aspects of intimacy with that person as well. Emotional, sharing your opinions, feelings, fears, dreams. This takes time. This is a process. Intellectual, maybe you're someone that really likes to have some good discussions and you want to know what they're thinking of and what drives them, what inspires them, what motivates them. And spiritual. It's the spiritual demands consensus on our essential purpose. We're going to talk about essential purpose in a moment too. So intimacy is really multi-dimensional. And our physical bodies are, of course, the vehicles through which we experience everything. So our essential purpose, common interests are not enough. It's so easy to, I mean, as friends, we have common interests with someone, but if you really want a partnership to last a long, long, long time, you can't just have common interests because those definitely change. They're not enough. And through work, we can develop virtue, the building blocks of the best version of ourselves. Through marriage, 2 people challenge and encourage each other to become the best version of themselves and become the best versions of themselves, and then to raise children and to educate them to become the best versions of themselves. So this book talks about how your essential purpose is really to become the best version of yourself and to see all of your life through the lens of, am I helping my partner become the best version of themselves? Is my partner helping me to become the best version of themselves? Is this relationship helping us to become the best? Everything makes sense in relation to that purpose. And that's like our proper glue. And so that's also interesting if you can start thinking in your life about certain relationships. Also, yes, during this PowerPoint, during this presentation, think about, focus on 1 or 2 or 3 relationships and figure out maybe where you're at with that certain person. Of course, it can be a primary person like your husband, but also we have, of course, other very important relationships with our children, with some very close friends, So maybe focus on a couple of relationships and see where you're at with them and where do you want to go with them as well. Relationships. Of course, if you really love someone, you want nothing less than to see that person become all he or she is capable of being. And you are willing to do everything to help that person achieve his or her essential purpose. So what keeps relationships together? It's that sense of purpose. And when do relationships fall apart? Well, when the sense of common purpose is lost. So this 7 levels of intimacy, it's a model, not a perfect model, but it's helps you kind of see where you may be at and where you want to go. It's a journey from the shallow to the deep, from the irrelevant to the relevant, from the illegitimate desires to your legitimate needs, figuring out your need in a relationship, from judgment to acceptance, from fear to courage, and from false self to true self. Like I said, it's a model. Relationships are not confined to any single level. It's not a task to be completed. Not all relationships deserve to experience all 7 levels, but hopefully your primary relationships should. And there's no rushing or forcing intimacy. Yes, that is also a very important point. No rushing or forcing the intimacy. So finally, let's begin. What is the first level of intimacy? Here you're just having a casual interaction. Hey, how are you? Fine. How are you? Fine. And then you move on. Hey, how are you? Fine. Thanks. Bye. They're necessary, but of course, can you imagine if that's all you said to your significant other? Yep, but of course, it's also a necessary part. And one point that I really like also in this book was how the author talked about carefree timelessness. And he described it as time together without an agenda, lightheartedness. And I think we could all really appreciate a little bit more carefree timelessness in our life with certain people, especially with your spouse, but with your children as well. I just want to hang out in this one part and share actually how important it is to just hang out. Maybe you have some adult children, to hang out with them, to not have an agenda. Highly recommend this to parents. I know I would really, really appreciate, and I have really appreciated, and I still would really appreciate if my parents, they did a little, sometimes less talking and a little more listening, or just like hanging out or not having an agenda. And you'd be so pleasantly surprised at how people can open up to you when you give them some time and some space and some quiet. I know for someone like me, that is really important. So highly recommend to try it out with your kids, no matter what their age is, because you'll be really pleasantly surprised at how much they can start opening up when there's some time and space and just being chill. Teenagers are great at this. Hey, what'd you do? Nothing, just chilling. What'd you do with your friend? Hanging out, chilling, hanging out, chilling. This, and also, of course, with your friends. I know I practice with a few friends like sleepovers, even though we're adult women, adult moms, every maybe couple months, we're doing a sleepover, because we all take some time to finally open up and to get deeper. Level 2, facts. This is the level of facts, and this level keeps us safe from intimacy, kind of. It's useful in forming initial acquaintances with a person, but if we remain here too long with certain relationships, the relationships definitely can become a little boring. How do we move on? Well, we can move on from this level, from talking about just the weather to other higher level and personal facts. Maybe talking about like a key figure or like an interesting memoir that you read instead of just the weather, but going a tiny bit deeper. And here, of course, with the facts, it doesn't really create conflict. But what can create some conflict is this third level. Now we're sharing about opinions. This does require us to be a little bit more vulnerable, actually, because here we can differ. And this one also really was eye-opening for me, because here, you can share a different opinion. And so many times I realize I just don't share at all. I don't want to share my opinion because I don't want any controversy, or I don't want any, difference. But here, if you can share your opinion, and if the other person can be accepting, and if you can be also accepting when they share something different, that's really the key to this level. Being a benevolent witness to a person's journey. Level 4, hopes and dreams. What visions do you have that shape your life? What visions do you have of your relationship? What do you center your life upon? Do you share your dreams, your hopes, your fantasies, your deepest desires, your values, your passions? Here I can very easily maybe to someone say, actually my dream has always been to be a marriage counselor. Like that's kind of, not a big deal, but that's kind of like a big deal. And if I wanted to even go deeper and share, like, I've always wanted to be a marriage counselor because my parents, sometimes they disagreed a lot with each other and they argued a lot. And I felt, and then I could go deeper and deeper, and I'll share and like the other levels. But here it's like your hopes and dreams. And here, like I could go on and share about my feelings, like, actually I wanted to be a marriage counselor because I really felt sad a lot of times in my life or growing up or with my parents, so that's me sharing something more vulnerable, sharing your feelings. Your feelings are these emotional reactions. They're the raw emotional nerve endings that very often reveal our brokenness, our humanity, our need to be held and listened to and loved. And listening to someone's feelings is the greatest gift that we can give. This is extremely vulnerable and also so wonderful when you can share your feelings and when you have nothing to hide, and when the person responds with just compassion and acceptance, and where you feel even safer in that relationship from that point forward. I have a friend, because she's an important friend, I really push myself to share my feelings with her when I don't want to. I think adult friendships, they're a little hard because you can either have an experience and maybe something kind of hurt your feelings and you can just avoid them and ignore them and suppress them and just sweep them under the rug. But if you really want to get closer and closer to this person, and if this person's really important to you, then you actually have to, at some point, like share a little bit more. So I know with this person, well, she knows me that I sometimes withdraw. And so she'll like basically almost, she asked me the same question 3 times in a row because she knows I might avoid it or not want to give the full answer like the first time. My husband does the same thing. So she's like, "Are you sure you're okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" Until I'm like, oh, "Okay, fine, I'll share." But yeah, that's hard to do. But it's actually in these moments when you can share, um, that other person can really appreciate it, and your relationship, it just gets closer. Like you feel really intimate with that person. You feel really close to that person, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful, amazing feeling that I'm really, really working on with some of my friends. The level 6. So this is your faults and your fears and your failures. Um, the first 5 levels kind of gives you the power and the courage to finally say things like, "I need help," "I'm afraid," or "I messed up." And of course, we all have, we all have things that we're not proud of. We all have a darker side, and we're all trying. Um, Here there's an emotional equivalent to nakedness. I saw this quote, actually, I want to read. So yeah, this is where I think a lot of just nakedness. And I want to ask you, just think for a second. When I say the word naked, what do you feel? What comes up in your mind? You being naked, how does that make you feel? Um, how does that word sound to you? But I have this quote from, well, now I can't read my handwriting. Courtney Berdera. "My greatest moment of intimacy was not the evening we took all our clothes off, but it was when you saw me at my most difficult state, like how you witnessed the most unlovable parts of me as I slowly unraveled each imperfection in front of you like a scar. And despite all of this, you loved me harder anyway." Mm, I love that beautiful quote. Yeah, this is where it gets pretty amazing, actually. Yeah, like I shared, or like in my introduction, I've been married for 15 years, and I would say only in the last 2 years have I really practiced this level of sharing my faults, sharing my fears, sharing my failures. And actually, it's in this part that has made the biggest turnaround in my marriage, is me finally sharing. Again, like I said, what this book helped me was like realize I'm also responsible. I need to be the one that talks and that opens up, instead of always wanting to hide. And feeling so blown away um, by what my husband, of his response. Feeling so blown away by his still love and acceptance and caress that he gave to me in those moments. And that's something that I definitely cannot forget. And that just this level here has helped me to feel so much closer to my spouse. And I want to, like I said, we all have all different types of relationships. And I've really done an amazing job when it comes to my husband and I still am working on like opening up more to my family members or opening up more to my friends, to my close friends. And the 7th level is legitimate needs. I love this beautiful picture of this mountaintop. Intimacy is a mountaintop experience. Its pinnacle is the dynamic collaboration between two people. Maybe you don't have a husband. Maybe you have really important friendships, I hope, or your mother or your mother-in-law or your children. We can have intimacy with these people. And it's this collaboration that we can have with them between two people to see to that each other's legitimate needs are fulfilled. And yeah, like I said, there's the 4 aspects, the physical, emotional, intellectual, and the spiritual aspects. And this is really the culmination, not just of your wants, but it becomes, we're really talking about your legitimate needs. So instead of saying, what's in it for me? Now you ask, how can I help you to become all you were created to be? And when you have these new thoughts, the relationship changes, the relationship becomes deeper. And there's this thoughtfulness and care in the relationship. You know, if we do have anger, if we do have resentment, if we do have discontentment and frustration, they're just signs. They're signs that our needs are not being met. And it's in the 7th level that we can really have some wisdom about your needs and not just your wants. And yes, understanding your needs is really important. And I think it's taken me also way too many years to figure out, oh yeah, what is my need? And to then be able to communicate that with your person. So now I'm going to look over at all the things that I missed. Also, you know, talking about, of course, intimacy that we have with relationships, but also there's an intimacy that our God really, really wants with us. Like God wants us to share not just the pretty, not just the stuff that's wrapped up in a bow and tied up really lovely. Because sometimes I just want to show God and I just want to show people that part. I just want to show the pretty, the smile. But actually, God and our people are really true good people. They want us to show like all of us, all of our parts, because we all have all different parts. And recently also, like someone important to me kind of had a breakdown. And my first thought was, wow, I'm really glad she's actually breaking down, because that means she trusts me. And that means she wants to share it with me. And that means she's open and she feels good with me. And that's a good thing. And I think it's so easy to want to cover up. But actually, it's when we break down, that other person can really, when they can really receive that and show us, you know, that safety and acceptance and love back, that's when there can be such an immense feeling of healing. That's where the healing part is. And I think God also absolutely wants us to come to him at all these points, not just when we are doing our best, but it can be when you're also really struggling. And there's such a beauty there as well. So, I believe that's all. I think we're going to go. I know that was kind of short. Was that too short? 31 minutes?
No, that's good. Don't worry.
Okay. I have the next slide is of some questions to think about and to ask in our breakout rooms, because we're going to do breakout rooms. So be specific. Do you trust your partner or your significant other? Why? What makes you trust them? Or what makes you not trust them? Trying to figure out what's important to you. Do you believe this person has your best interest at heart? Of course, not 100% of the time, because we're all human and fragile and imperfect, but most of the time. And another question to ponder is this person helping you to become the best version of yourself? And are you helping your partner, your spouse, your adult children, your mom, mother-in-law to become the best version of themselves? And something that was brought up last time was, it's not, of course, about what only you think, like, oh, okay, I'm going to control the situation and I think what's best for you is blah, blah, blah. But like, this should be like supporting role. So like they should be the subject of what they think is best for themselves, and you're supporting, not just dominating and controlling. And yep, those are the 3 questions that we can talk about.
Maybe we can give people a few minutes to write about this before we send them to breakout rooms.
Okay.
Very good. Hey, thank you, Shawna. That was an awesome presentation and very thought-provoking. I really enjoyed that a lot. And I think I was really touched when you shared about your partner, that you were finally, you understood that you have this responsibility to open up your deepest parts of your heart. But that was scary. That wasn't natural. There's a reason why you were closed. So for you to open that door took courage, and there had to be some trust there. But even so, you didn't quite know what was the response going to be, right? You hadn't quite gone there. So then for him to respond so lovingly, that's just such a big trust building experience, that to now you have a deeper level of intimacy with your partner because you chose to take that risk and open yourself up. And then he responded in the way that was really trustworthy with your heart. He was careful and loving with your vulnerability. So I was really moved by that part that you shared. Thank you. And so, yeah, if everyone could just go through these questions, write them down, ponder them a little bit. We're going to go into some breakout rooms and discuss them with another person, have some practice with our intimacy and sharing something about ourselves that maybe we would normally keep covered up. But we're going to practice being brave and having courage, like Shawna did, to expose that vulnerable part of us to another human.
I put the questions in the chat, so you'll be able to access them in the breakout rooms also. You need to.
Mm-hmm.
Are we ready?
Okay.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay, so you'll have 15 minutes and you either have 2 or 3 people in the breakout rooms.
Wonderful.
Okay, I'm gonna open them now.
Oops. Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had an intimate sharing time. Practiced kind of climbing the ladder of those levels of intimacy. So let's see. How much time do we have for questions, Myrna? Should we get in, just do about 10 minutes or so of question answer?
Yeah, you have 15 probably.
15 minutes. Okay. So now we'd like to open up the floor for some questions for Shawna about the book, or maybe personal questions. We can get her to open up, and we can ask some intimate questions, maybe like, what's your story? Things like that. But any questions people would like to bring up, now is your chance. We have about 15 minutes, so let's go for it.
Questions or comments, right? Or any like
Or
amazing realizations you had? Yeah.
yes, or if you want to share about your experience in the chat, or the breakout rooms, how you experienced intimacy there, or anything like that too. So sharing is fine, doesn't have to be a question.
Yeah.
Let's practice courage.
I have a point. I'm grateful, Shawna, for your presentation. And at first I thought it would just go into my mind, but what I realized, it went into my heart. And in the breakout room, I realized, oh, it isn't easy to share openly about these deep things. But I'm finding that just recognizing that you care about another person is an kind of an affirmation to wanting intimacy. So I didn't know the person in my breakout room, never met her before, but we shared many common experiences about when we met our husbands, same time, and when we were married and blessed, and all those things. So there are many commonalities, but the differences too caused me to wonder how to keep this relationship. Like in every relationship, and this is my problem maybe, I believe everyone I can stay connected to, anyone. And that intimacy can grow not only here, but forever, for eternity, depending on the quality of the heart of the relationship. So for me, I find every relationship on some level to be so invaluable. So I care to find a parental heart. So I'm struggling in a sense to tie this information into my own experiences and my own experience of heart and relationships and all the training we've had as family coaching. I'm sort of struggling a bit, but I really love the concepts and the way it has a continuum. But I see it as cyclical too, or you bounce from one level to the next on a regular basis. But keeping the relationship alive is getting closer and closer together in heart. And especially with our children and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, and all the people we hold precious in our lives. It seems like this kind of relationship is the goal, is the important part. And I loved your presentation, Shawna. And I liked my breakout very much. Thank you, Shawna.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, I think I like the point that relationships, there is investment in it, and it's what you put into it is what you get out of it. So you were saying, like, you have a lot of your relationships are very deep. They're already very intimate, and you have that kind of mother heart in a lot of your relationships, and it's easy to be kind of intimate and close. And I think that's very beautiful, and it shows kind of where you're at with your growth in your heart, that you're able to be intimate with lots of other people. And I think some people have wounding and things that they're protected. Their heart is not open, and they've been wounded in a way that it's not safe for them to be intimate with others, so that it may be more difficult, and that it takes intention. Like Shawna had shared, she had to be intentional to open up and to be brave enough to be vulnerable, to share her fears and failures, getting into that deepest level of intimacy. That wasn't something that just happened naturally. It was something she had to choose to do that was scary and difficult, but it created a deeper level of intimacy that she wouldn't have had without making that choice. And so that's the beauty of this kind of inner work and just and learning how to have a better relationship. We take the knowledge and then we take it into our relationships and we get that courage and we do something, we take action, and then we can get the results of the deeper. So it's not a ladder that you can't just climb it without any effort. I think that's the beauty of this. The intimacy takes some work, some action, doing something that's uncomfortable to break through to that next level. And then we're rewarded with that intimacy.
Thank you.
Perfectly said. Yes. Yeah, I have a quote here that also says, you will experience intimacy only to the extent that you are prepared to reveal yourself. So that's basically it. Making that choice, taking that action, like you just said.
That's right.
I have a
Who
question.
else?
This is Myrna. So you said one of the first levels, you said that it can't be forced, you know, the intimacy can't be forced. So what from your reading of the book, what do you think if somebody else isn't ready, you really want that intimacy with them, but they're not able or not ready, what can I do?
Is this with like an adult child?
Yeah, or even a parent.
Or even with a parent. Yeah, this is an important part about not feeling rushed or forced, because if that other person senses any type of control or a domination, then that other person will really resist and not want to join. And of course, yeah, it's only when that other person feels safe and good, then they'll naturally come to you, you know, that natural surrender, that natural coming to. And I guess hopefully, like, you know, the person much better and well, so hopefully you can figure out like what can open up that person, but to do it in a really gentle, non-invasive, just letting them know that you're here, you know, whenever you're ready. Like I have a friend that gives me a lot of space and a lot of time. And she's like, well, just anytime you want to tell me about that thing, I'm here. And maybe she'll remind me in a few more weeks, you know, I'm here if you still want to talk. And yeah.
Very good point. Yeah. By not forcing it, you create the safety that's needed for that person to have the courage to open up and be intimate. Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. And sometimes just like, well, I don't know if I want to say like pretending not to care, but like not making it a big deal. Like if it was my mom or dad, I'd want them to try to like not make it a big deal. Be like, oh, whatever, you can tell me or not. Like, I don't care. And then I'll want to tell them more maybe. But yeah, not being too dominating.
Good. Well, anyone else have a comment, want to share about their experience or something that an aha moment for them, something that inspired them, a takeaway from the talk? Donna says, I call it being available, an open door. Yeah. Yeah, there's no pressure. It's just an open door. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yana, you unmuted. Do you want to share? I think there's no sound. Yenna, we can't hear you even though you're unmuted.
Let me see. Is it good now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
No? Yes, you can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I really appreciated the point in the talk about, and it connects with what you were just saying about the, what was it? Like hanging out or the timeless without a plan and allowing space. I thought that was so nice way for, because I had the same question that Myrna had about like, how do you create that space for other people? And I think that's because all of us are unique in our ways of like, where we're challenged in intimacy. I think that like being able to have just a lot, giving hangout time, especially with those that you're close to, that they can surprise you when they share. Or sometimes with my husband, I notice like driving in the car time might be a time where it's easier for him to share that surprised me. Or, and with my kids, so I have all sons, all boys, and they don't share necessarily when I ask like how was school at the dinner table. They're like, why do you always ask that? But it'll be like a random time 2 weeks later, you know. So I love having that kind of space. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Yana.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, what was it called, Shawna? Carefree timelessness or something?
Carefree timelessness.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Carefree timelessness.
Wow. Yes, if we could all do more of that. Yvonne, did you want to share something?
Oh, yes. Please remind me of the speaker's name today.
Shawna.
Shawna, sorry. Okay. Yeah, Shawna, I really appreciated your sharing. I thought it was very beautiful. And that was very open-hearted of you, you know, to express yourself in such a way. And I especially heard the part where you said that, you know, it's important and we all yearn to be intimate, and it means to be close to and to understand and to be understood. And one point that you made that I thought was one of the most important actually was that even counts on who will we be intimate with, even with ourselves. That we could be honest, and open to ourselves. In other words, to dig deep into our heart and to our mind and ask ourselves, who am I really? What do I really believe? And whatever it is, it's okay, because God already knows. God already knows everything more than we know ourselves. So why not be as open and honest to ourselves, to try to understand who we are, what we believe, and then we could take it from there. You know, because it's easy to either, you know, if we don't even know ourselves, to thine own self be true. Like, you know, if we don't even know who we truly are, what we truly believe, and, you know, it's okay because God already knows. And then we can always work from there. So I thought that was really beautiful. And I liked what you said. And I think it's beautiful that we're having this discussion, encouraging everyone to reflect and to get to know yourself better and get to know others better. And, you know, to be kind to yourself, kind to others, patient, trusting, and, you know, work on it. That's the beginning point of anything, is to be honest and admit and to desire something. So that's a good thing. I'm happy for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. That's a beautiful point. Intimacy with yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Being honest with yourself. How willing are you to look at your own vulnerabilities, right? To expose your own weaknesses to yourself and admit your faults and love yourself in spite of the flaws. through the flaws, loving yourself. That's a really big piece of the work, isn't it? I love that point. Thank you. Okay, so Myrna, I think now is the time. I'm gonna hand it over to you to talk about our June program, what we have coming up next.
Thank you, Shawna, and thank you, Kendra. I just want to share my screen here. In June, oops, sorry. Hold on, I clicked the wrong thing. 1 second. I accidentally closed it. I will get it together here. So in June, we have the opportunity to there we go. To hear from a woman who is she was in the corporate world for many years, and actually in Women's Federation, she was recognized in the East Coast with our Her Story Award, which some of you may have heard about before. And she has an upcoming book. Let me do this right this time. And her name is Ritu Chopra, and she is going to give a presentation on magic and mindfulness. That's the title of her upcoming book. And I will send out this flyer and some more details about her. And it's on Saturday, June 17th from 10 to 11:30 Pacific time, 1 to 2:30 Eastern time. And she's going to guide us through the understanding and the experience of being more mindful. So maybe this goes well with our presentation this time, because it can be helping us to become more intimate with ourselves and to move beyond what she calls the mind's cohesive chaos, and find ways to engage in inner and disengage with the inner chat. So back to you, Kendra.
Awesome. That sounds very interesting, to engage and disengage with the inner chat, the mind, how to engage when we want to and disengage when we need to. That's a good skill. Very interesting. Looking forward to that. Well, thank you, Shawna. You did fabulous today. We really learned a lot and appreciated the intimacy that we all experienced. Thank you, everyone, for sharing and for being here today. And we look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be with you all today. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Take care.
Take care.
Okay. Bye, Shawna.
Au revoir, Sylvie.
Au revoir. I wrote you a personal message. Look at it.
Yes, I just wrote you back.
Oh. Okay, let me see.
I hope that helps.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, you know my kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
So let me stop the recording.